Vienna's dying, the emperor is gone. He fled in the night weeks ago, and his capital has been left to bleed without him. Outside the walls, 110,000 Ottoman soldiers are camped in a ring of fire and canvas, fighting beneath the sacred banner of the Prophet himself. The bastions, the great stone shields that were supposed to make this city untakeable, have been blown open from below. Through the breaches come the Janissaries, the most feared infantry on earth, wave after wave after wave, climbing over their own dead to reach the men behind the rubble. Of the 16,000 defenders who manned these walls in July, scarcely 1 man in 3 can still stand. The rest are dead, dying, or shaking with fever in cellars that smell of powder and rot. And every night, every single night, a rocket rises from the spire of St. Stephen's Cathedral and bursts above the city, a signal, a prayer. We are still alive. Come now, or come to a graveyard. And every night, the darkness beyond the Ottoman campfires gives no answer, until the night it does. On the black slopes of the Vienna Woods, a fire flares. Then another. Regiment after regiment, banner after banner, filing out of the trees. The relief army has come. To understand why it very nearly didn't, go back 200 years. Since the 1400s, the Ottoman Empire has rolled across the map of Europe like a tide that never goes out. Constantinople, taken. The Balkans, taken. Most of Hungary, taken. The Black Sea is an Ottoman lake. The Sultan rules territory on 3 continents and guards the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. On paper, it is the most powerful state on earth. But the machine is tiring. Decades of grinding war. Persia in the east, Venice at sea, Poland and Russia in the north have bled the treasury dry. The Janissaries, once the Sultan's obedient slave soldiers, have discovered that they can make sultans and unmake them. And they do. So the men who run the empire reach a simple conclusion. What Istanbul needs is not reform. It needs a victory. One enormous, dazzling victory to glue the whole creaking structure back together. The man who intends to deliver it is not the Sultan. Mehmed IV is known as the Hunter because hunting is very nearly all he does. And he is content to leave the empire to his Grand Vizier, Kara Mustafa Pasha. Ambitious, imperious, and convinced he was born for something enormous. The pretext is ready-made. Hungary is split between Sultan and Emperor, and the truce between them is running out. The Habsburg Emperor, Leopold I, is persecuting his Protestant subjects, and Hungarian rebels are offering their allegiance to the Sultan instead. Still, the cautious Mehmed wavers, and so Kara Mustafa goes to work. He wins over the Janissary command with an argument they cannot resist. Peace brings neither riches nor glory. He arranges for border governors to send alarming reports of Austrian raids, complete with witnesses produced on schedule. And under that steady drumbeat, the Sultan gives way. He approves the war. What marches west is one of the largest armies the Ottoman Empire has ever put into the field. Estimates of its fighting strength run from 90,000 men all the way to 170,000. And behind them, a second army of tens of thousands. Drivers, smiths, merchants, herdsmen, heavy siege guns, thousands of camels. On the move, the column stretches for dozens of kilometers. When its head makes camp, its tail is still a full day behind. And at the departure ceremony, Kara Mustafa is handed the sacred banner of the Prophet, the key of the Kaaba tied to its staff. From this moment, he does not march as a general. He marches as the standard bearer of the faith, with the honor of the entire Islamic world resting on his shoulders. Victory will make him immortal. The alternative he does not consider. Summer 1683, the army crosses into Austrian Hungary, and the Austrians, who cannot possibly face this giant in the open field, fall back on their fortresses and pray. The Sultan's orders are clear and limited. Take the Hungarian border strongholds, nothing more. Then at the War Council, Kara Mustafa reveals what he has actually come for. Vienna. The tent goes still. Suleiman the Magnificent himself, the greatest of all sultans, stood before those walls 150 years ago and failed. Beyond Vienna lie the gates of Catholic Europe, and beyond the gates, Rome. To take Vienna is to outdo the greatest who ever lived, and a flatterer at the vizier's elbow whispers exactly what he wants to hear. Not even Alexander commanded such a host. The commander sits silent. Every one of them knows the Sultan's orders say otherwise. Pressed for an opinion, they give the only answer that is safe to give. Yours is to command, ours is to obey. The Tatar cavalry goes first, racing ahead of the army to strip Lower Austria to the bone. Villages torched, crops trampled into the earth. Those who run too slowly are cut down or roped together and driven east toward the slave markets. From Vienna's walls, you can watch the horizon burn. The city breaks into panic. Emperor Leopold packs the court and flees up the Danube. The nobility stampedes after him. Within days, half of Vienna has emptied onto the roads. Into that vacuum steps a soldier. Count Ernst Rüdiger von Starhemberg takes command of the defense. Roughly 11,000 regular troops, plus 5,000 armed citizens and students. 16,000 men against whatever is coming. He burns the suburbs to the ground so the Ottomans will find no cover there. He stockpiles powder and shot, assigns a unit to every bastion, and inventories the arsenal, which holds, among other things, a small mountain of hand grenades. The workshops are ordered to make more. Vienna is going to need them. In mid-July, the army arrives, and Vienna finally sees what it is facing. A canvas city spreading to the horizon, hundreds of thousands of men and animals, herds of cattle, caravans of camels, markets, kitchens, forges, a capital built in days. At its heart stands the Grand Vizier's palace tent, a traveling residence of gold-embroidered fabric, room after silk-walled room, with the sacred banner under guard inside. On July the 14th, the ring around the city closes, and Kara Mustafa sends in the letter that custom requires. Convert to Islam and live in peace. Surrender the city and be spared, you and your property. Resist, and the city will be put to the sword. Homes plundered, men slaughtered, children carried off into slavery. It is not a threat. It is the law of siege, offered exactly once. Vienna does not answer. The siege begins. The batteries open first, pounding the bastions day after day, hunting the defenders' guns. Vienna answers with counter-battery fire until the barrels glow, and the crews sluice them down to keep them from bursting. But the true horror is the mortars. Bombs lobbed high over the walls, falling out of the rooftops. Incendiaries start fires by the dozen, and organized brigades fight the flames day and night while the shells keep coming. And every night, the defenders crawl out onto their battered works, patch what has been smashed, and rearm for the morning. Here is why Vienna hasn't already fallen. This is not a medieval town with tall, thin walls. It is a modern star fortress, low, sloped ramparts that shrug off cannonballs, angled bastions whose guns interlock, so that a man attacking one wall is flanked from two others, ravelins in the ditch, and a palisade line beyond it. Artillery alone cannot crack it, and Kara Mustafa knows it. So the Ottomans go under. Night after night, zigzag trenches crawl closer to the walls, sap by sap, dug by thousands of hands. At dawn, the defenders sortie into them. Knives, axes, pistols in the half-dark of the trenches. Some raids wreck days of Ottoman labor. Others are massacred to the last man. In the first week of August, the palisade line falls. The great parallel trench is dug at the very foot of the fortifications, and beneath it all runs the real war. Ottoman miners tunneling by lamplight toward the bastions, packing chambers with gunpowder, while Austrian counter-miners dig out to meet them. Men pressing their ears to the earth for the scrape of enemy picks, then breaking through and fighting underground, hand to hand, in the flicker of oil lamps. On August the 12th, a great mine erupts beneath the outer works. The blast shakes half the city and heaves enough earth into the ditch to bridge it. By early September, the forward defenses are gone, and the tunnels are reaching the bastions themselves. Starhemberg knows the city cannot save itself. Someone has to get through to the relief army, if a relief army even exists. He sends courier after courier into the dark, and the Ottomans catch them, one after another. Taken, tortured, executed. Then a volunteer steps forward, Jerzy Franciszek Kulczycki, a merchant, once a captive of the Ottomans, fluent in Turkish down to the accent. He knows the songs, he knows the prayers, he knows how a trader walks, haggles, complains about the roads. In Turkish robes, with a peddler's basket, he and a companion slip out during a night sortie and then do the unthinkable. They walk straight through the middle of the Ottoman camp, singing loudly like traders who own the road. An officer calls them to his fire, shares his pilaf, asks where they're from. Kulchiski names some little Anatolian town, makes a joke in flawless Turkish, and walks on into the dark. Days later, he is back inside Vienna carrying the only cargo that matters. Hold on. The relief army is coming. The news runs through the starving city like a current and kills all talk of surrender overnight. By late August, the deadliest killer in Vienna is not Ottoman. It is dysentery, the red flood, breeding in fouled water and unburied corpses, and it kills more men than iron ever has. Starhemberg himself goes down with it and commands anyway, carried along the walls. Sentries collapse asleep on their feet after weeks without relief, until he decrees death for any man caught sleeping at his post. There is no one left to spare him. Beyond the horizon, the miracle Vienna is praying for is slowly assembling, and its engine is an old man in Rome. Pope Innocent XI rings the alarm across Christendom. Money out of the papal treasury, relentless diplomacy, pressure, flattery, whatever it takes to forge quarrelsome princes into a single league. The treaty signed that spring between Emperor Leopold and King Jan III, Sobieski of Poland, now activates. Saxons, Bavarians, Franconians, the armies of the Holy Roman Empire and of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth converge on the Danube, roughly 70,000 men with some 18,000 horsemen among them. And at the core of that cavalry, 3,000 Polish winged hussars. Command goes, by agreement of princes, to Sobieski, the king who crushed an Ottoman army at Chochim 10 years before. The Turks know his name well. They call him the Lion of Lekistan. September breaks the city open. On the 2nd, a mine smashed into the ditch. On the 4th, a greater blast tears a breach 9 meters wide, and the Janissaries pour into it. This time it is Starhemberg himself, sick and hollow-eyed, who leads the counterattack into the gap, cannon firing grape shot point blank into the press of bodies. On the 6th, another mine, another assault, and the Ottomans very nearly break through. The defenders throw them back with grenades, musketry, and hand-to-hand slaughter on the rubble. That night, the exhausted garrison does the only thing left to do. Behind the breach, inside the city, they dig a new ditch and raise a new palisade. A last line. If it goes, the next strong point is the Cathedral. And night after night now, signal rockets rise from the spire of St. Stephen's, burning arcs over the rooftops, begging the darkness for help. In the trenches below, the Ottomans watch the desperate lights and read them as an omen of victory. The help is closer than anyone in Vienna knows. And it is doing something Kara Mustafa believes impossible. The Allied army crosses the Danube and takes the hardest road to the city, straight through the Vienna Woods, ravines, streams, autumn rain. There are no roads fit for an army here, so the guns go up the mud slopes by hand, on ropes, and are lowered into the gullies the same way. The host crawls forward, strung out for miles along forest tracks, while every night Vienna's rockets burn in the sky ahead like a countdown. Because inside the walls, time is finished. A second breach has opened. By September the 12th, of the 16,000 who began this siege, barely a third, perhaps 4,000 sick and starving men, can still fight. And beneath one of the breaches, Ottoman miners are stacking barrel after barrel of powder. The final mine, the one that will blow the way open for good. Dawn September the 12th, fire answers from the Vienna Woods. The city erupts. Men weeping on the ramparts, bells, wild gunfire into the air. On the slopes above the sea of tents, regiment after regiment steps out of the tree line and deploys for battle. Kara Mustafa swings much of his army around to face the heights, but he keeps his Janissaries in the trenches, still pressing the city, still certain Vienna will fall before any battle is decided. He never believed an army could cross those hills. He never fortified his rear. Now the bill for that arrogance comes due. All day the Allied left wing, Imperials, Saxons, Bavarians, grinds its way down the slopes with artillery support, taking villages, vineyards, and gullies one at a time. By early afternoon, The Poles at last fight clear of the hills on the right, and by late afternoon the battle has rolled off the slopes entirely, onto the open ground before the camp. Open ground, cavalry ground. Now they can run. The winged hussars are heavy lancers in an age that has abandoned the lance, and that is exactly why nothing on this field can stop them. Purpose-bred horses that are forbidden, on pain of death, to sell abroad. Lances over 5 meters long, outreaching every pike and every blade they will ever meet. Gilded cuirasses, leopard and wolf pelts, and the great feathered wings that hum in the wind at 40 kilometers an hour. Nobility only, each man's kit worth a small fortune. The pride of the Commonwealth. Toward evening, close to 18,000 Allied horsemen form line along the lower slopes, one of the largest cavalry charges in history. And at the head of the hussars rides the King of Poland himself. The lances come down. The slope begins to thunder. Then the cry, "Jesus and Mary!" And the line falls on the camp like a landslide. Ottoman ranks are skewered, ridden down, shattered. Whole formations dissolve at the sight of the wings. Mustafa throws in his reserves and fights saber in hand, his retinue cut down around him, until his own servants seize his bridle and drag him from the field. And under the walls of Vienna, the great mine never fires. The defenders have broken into the chamber in time and collapsed the gallery. The Janissaries' final assault stops mid-wave. The vizier has ordered retreat. The Ottomans run so fast they abandon everything, and the victors wander into a ghost city, stranger than any battlefield. The vizier's tent complex, the size of a small cathedral, silk-lined chambers, Persian carpets, silver basins, and on the desk, an unfinished dispatch to the sultan. A harem, part fled, part captured. Cages of exotic beasts. Thousands of empty wagons standing in patient rows. The wagons meant to carry away the plunder of Vienna. The entire siege artillery abandoned in its batteries. Dozens of banners, one of them so magnificent it is mistaken for the banner of the Prophet itself. The real one has escaped with the vizier. It is sent to Rome anyway, along with Sobieski's message to the Pope, one line long. We came, we saw, God conquered. And in the stores, hundreds of sacks of strange dark beans the soldiers take for camel feed. They are handed to Kolchicki, the man who walked through this very camp singing. And legend says he opens one of Vienna's first coffee houses with them. The bakers, that same legend swears, mark the victory with rolls shaped like the Ottoman crescent, so the city can eat its enemy every morning. And the croissant is born. History doesn't confirm it. Vienna has never stopped telling it. Sobieski rides into Vienna as a savior. Crowds press in to touch his boots. Starhemberg, somehow still on his feet, embraces him at the gates. Days later, Emperor Leopold returns to his rescued capital, and that meeting is ice. The emperor cannot bear that all Europe is crediting a Polish king with saving the House of Habsburg. Protocol is measured to the inch, and when Sobieski's teenage son steps forward to greet him, Leopold turns away without a word. The Pope forges his Holy League. The reconquest of Central Europe begins, and within a generation, Hungary is retaken. The Ottomans will never threaten Vienna again. And Mustafa? In Belgrade, on Christmas Day, the Sultan's messengers arrive and read him the sentence. He asks only that it be done properly. He washes, he prays, and the silk cord, the bloodless death reserved for the highborn, is drawn tight. His head travels back to the Sultan in a velvet bag. The man who marched out as the standard bearer of the faith comes home as a trophy.